We are talking Older Gods. This is directed and written by David A. Roberts and stars Rory Wilson as Chris. And this is best described as H.P. Lovecraft does The Wicker-man, I suppose. It is a slow burn kind of cosmic horror that focuses on this guy Chris, who is a gentleman who is trying to find out the reasons behind his friend's apparent suicide. His friend has, been a little bit estranged, you might say, and apparently committed suicide, but Chris is kind of following various clues that his friend Billy had left, and it takes him to this kind of small rural cottage in Wales, where he finds out that his friend Billy was investigating this kind of strange kind of doomsday cult, and he ends up getting embroiled in it himself. And this cult kind of wants to either recruit him, stop him, do all sorts of things to his kind of family if he doesn't kind of capitulate. What will happen? Well, you'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. So this is kind of clearly influenced by the likes of H.P. Lovecraft, the older gods rather than the kind of the elder gods and all this. What works about this film? This movie's biggest attribute, I would say, is its sense of kind of doom and dread. This movie has a real kind of sense of foreboding kind of menace. So when you watch this, there's nothing kind of like, there's no like action sequences, jump scares, kind of like overt kind of horror stuff on screen. But what you do get is this building sense of kind of paranoia, of there's something kind of just behind the door, so to speak. And, it's wonderfully crafted because of that sort of thing. So if you like a good kind of like mood piece, a good kind of atmospheric thriller, folk horror type film, this is it. And this is done by the slow and deliberate pace of the movie. It's done by some great kind of use of kind of musical score here to kind of give you that kind of atmosphere. And just this kind of drip feed of kind of information that we're given through watching kind of like video files on a computer, or having strange kind of figures kind of seemingly stand motionless outside this guy's kind of cottage and things, and a couple of kind of like prophetic dreams and stuff. So we get kind of these kind of like little snippets of information about what this cult's all about, and in a weird way the film makes it sound sort of alluring in many ways. Opening your mind and how insignificant we all are in the kind of the space of the universe and all of this. So it has these kind of grand kind of like ideas and things like this, and very much, as I say, very much H.P. Lovecraft inspired, but obviously it's all taking place within this kind of rural area, in this kind of small kind of community, kind of like the Wicker-man, and you've got this stranger in a kind of a strange land. So there's some recognisable kind of themes here that you have seen in other properties, and it's kind of packaged in a way that I think very much reflects the kind of the spirit of those type of projects that I've kind of mentioned. And I've got to say, it's also plussed by some really kind of like nice cinematography and kind of like framing. The way we see just this kind of dark figure kind of standing, slightly out of focus in the kind of the distance and things like this, and our, protagonist Chris is kind of in the foreground and stuff. I think it's really well done. I also think they've made the Chris, who's our protagonist, a kind of very much like an everyman. He's going into this trying to kind of find out what's happening to his friend, because he feels like, he owes him and things like this, and kind of everyone else has kind of forsaken him. So we very much kind of are on side with the character of Chris. I think they've done a good job here of making you feel, empathy for this character. And the acting, for the most part, is pretty good, I will say. I think these believable kind of performances here give you that kind of like that emotional depth. And just to pivot maybe what doesn't work here, I do think the acting here is strong. But I will say our main character, his kind of accent changes. I think he's putting on an American accent, and I think he's from England, from what I can tell, and he's putting on this kind of like an American accent. But there are times where it's kind of, it goes, basically. And, the acting is good outside of that, but there is a couple of occasions where I noticed the accent kind of slipping a little bit. It happens quite a lot when you have British-made kind of horror films, because they want to, appeal to you know, outside of the UK and for American audience, so they kind of a lot of time will get UK talent to kind of put on this American accent. It's the one thing I would say. So what else can I say maybe that doesn't work quite as well? I mean, when it's all said and done, not a huge amount happens in this film. It is very much a slow burn. I don't know if it had a particularly strong payoff, so to speak, and the payoff that it did have, I think, is typical for this sort of film. I mean, you know, you can if I had to kind of say to you at the beginning of the film, guess what will happen by the end of the film, you'd probably guess. So even though this film kind of its whole vibe is kind of being weird and mysterious, when it's all said and done, it kind of goes more or less exactly like you're going to think it's going to go. And I have to say as well, I mean, there are some things here that I didn't quite sort of like buy, so to speak. So the whole point here, we have this kind of mysterious presence trying to seduce this character of Chris to kind of like becoming this kind of survivor, becoming this kind of like, I don't know, like a recruit for this kind of cult, basically. But then they have these kind of like other guys kind of like just standing around with their eyes whited out, kind of speaking gibberish, and thinking, well, that's not really an advert for the, you know, for what you're, for kind of like recruitment, is it? Like, you have these randos kind of standing around with kind of like zombies. It's like, why would anyone who's got the foresight and kind of like sense kind of go, yeah, I totally would do that? I don't know. I mean, I know it's going to be kind of like mystical and kind of like, you know, multi-sensual and all that, but I don't know, it just seemed a little bit silly, if you ask me. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you kind of like put these people, they don't really do anything. So it just seems like an odd recruitment technique. Maybe I'm overthinking that. It makes for some interesting visuals and stuff, but I didn't really feel it made super sense, to be fair. I mean, you have to kind of take some leaps in logic in regards to some of the kind of the insights that these kind of characters might have. So, you know, overall, it was an interesting kind of mood piece, an interesting atmospheric movie. I think does capture the spirit of Lovecraft, and if you like movies like The Wicker-Man, I certainly feel that you probably would enjoy that. But I don't think it particularly amounts to a hell of a lot, if I'm completely honest. And it's kind of like, I don't think it really kind of surprises you. It kind of, oh, this is our stall, and we're kind of like going to give you exactly what you are expecting. So, you know, it's a pretty good movie, but I don't think it's outstanding in any particular way. You know, so it's kind of like an okay one-time watch if you are into this kind of style of movie. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.